Okay, I have a fun effect to share with you today, and as you can see I have 12 cards of various values, suits, and colors on the table. So let's go ahead and just gather these up. Now, since the two of us saw the cards, why don't we give them a mix here, just in case you have a photographic memory or something amazing like that. Here I'm just taking the top and bottom off as one. It's called the Klondike Shuffle. And let me give you some choices here so that you're very much in charge of the ordering of the cards here. Would you like the top row on bottom or vice versa? Bottom row on top. How would you like the pile stacked? Left on right? Okay. Would you like to do another one of these? One more? Okay, that's fine. Now, note to you as a performer, you can perform as many of these dealing out into 4 piles in the way that I'm showing you with the stacking options that I'm giving the spectator as well. Okay, you can do one of these or 50 if the spectator has the patience. Okay, do you want top row on bottom or vice versa? Bottom on top? Okay. What about left or right on left? Left on right. Okay. So you're feeling pretty good about the cards being well mixed? Okay. So what we're going to do is just perform that Klondike Shuffle a second and final time. And then I'm going to deal out the cards into 2 piles. And I need you to make a choice here. Which pile is yours and which one is mine? And this is very important, actually. So which one do you want for yourself? The right one? So I get the left one. Now, the reason this choice is important is I'm going to somehow use my packet to discern the identity of a randomly arrived at card in your packet. Okay, so what I need you to do first is randomly choose any number between 1 and 6. And this is truly a free choice. So what number would you like me to go with? 4. Okay. So what I'm going to do in my packet is I'm going to look at the 4th card, 2, 3, 4. And my 4th card is going to tell me the identity of your 4th card. So I'm going to peek at it here. Okay. My card is telling me that your 4th card down is actually the 5 of diamonds. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So is your 4th card down the 5 of diamonds? It is indeed. Okay. What's that? You want to do it again? Okay, that's fine. Randomly stack these. You want mine on top? Okay. Let's just go through the same steps again. So we do a Klondike Shuffle to scramble the cards, since we have some ideas to where some of the cards are. And then we're going to perform this dealing into 4 piles as many times as you like, actually. How do you want the rows stacked? Top on bottom, piles right on left. Okay, any more of those? No. Okay, but just know that you could choose to have more. And then we'll just go to our second and final Klondike. And then from there, I'll just deal them out into 2 piles like we did just a second ago. So 2 piles. Now, choose 1 pile for you and 1 pile for me. This is a critical choice. You want the left one? Okay, and I get the right one? Okay. Now, randomly choose any number between 1 and 6. You want 2 this time? Okay. So I'm going to look at the 2nd card in my pile and try to deduce or divine the identity of your card in the 2nd position. Okay, I think your 2nd card down is actually the Queen of Spades. So 1, 2, there it is. It is, in fact, the Queen of Spades. That is amazing. And so you can do this forever. And you will always be able to nail exactly the identity of the spectator's card at the randomly chosen position of their own selection. Okay, so let me quickly show you how to do this right away. And then for those who are wanting to understand what's going on here and why it works, we'll go into a fairly in-depth explanation as to why it's working and some of the mathematics behind it. Okay, well, to make it work, all you would really need to do is just start with that packet that I showed you at the beginning. So if you build that packet, now at the end of this video, I'll show you why I built that packet, but that's at the more technical part where we go deeply into what's driving this. But if you build the packet that I showed you and perform the steps that I showed you, this is going to work for you. Okay, so the only secret now, because you saw what those cards were and you saw how they were arranged, so build that packet. And then the only secret I need to tell you is how do I use my card to deduce the identity of your card? That's the grand secret here. So I think what I'll do here, even though we just gathered these up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we'll kind of go back in time here and I'll practice with you as to how I knew what card was at each position. Okay, and let me bring a little write-up here to kind of show you the relationship between your cards and mine. Okay, and it's actually quite simple. Okay, so first off, I don't know if you've heard of chased order, clubs, hearts, spades, diamonds. That will be helpful to just be aware of. In chased order, that after a club comes a heart, after a heart comes a spade, after a spade comes a diamond, after a diamond comes a club. So understanding that little mnemonic will get you halfway there, okay? And then the only other thing you need to be aware of is if your packet, let's say, we'll practice in just a second. If I see a 2 of clubs in a certain position here, then I know in that same position in yours, you will have a 3 of hearts, okay? So what's the rule for making that assignment? Well, it's right up here. So if I see an even value, like a 2 for the card value, I add 1 to get the 3. For the suit, I just follow the chased order. So if I see a club, then I know yours is a heart, okay? So I saw the 2, it's even, so I add 1, I get 3. I see a club, so I go 1 further in chased order, which lands me on a heart, okay? Or why don't we do this one in reverse here? Let's say I see a 7 of hearts. Well, if I see an odd value, the only thing you do different is you subtract 1, right? To get back to the even value that's assigned to it, right? Because if you saw a 6, you would add 1 to get 7, and that's an even to an odd. But now if I see an odd, I subtract 1 to get back to that even number 6. Now what comes before hearts in chased order? It's the club. So seeing this, I would know for certainty that your card at whatever position we're focused on would be the 6 of clubs. Okay, so let's go ahead and practice really fast. Okay, so let's say right now the spectator says, my random number between 1 and 6 is 1. Okay, that's fine. So what I would do then is this is the first position card. I would look at it. Now I'll show it to you. Okay, so I'm seeing a jack of hearts. Now jack is an 11, which is odd. So I would subtract 1 from that to get the 10. So I know their top card is the 10, and then it's the suit that's before hearts in chased order, and that of course would be the clubs. So this would have to be the 10 of clubs, and it is. Okay, why don't we practice with one more? Maybe they say 5 is their random number. Okay, I keep grabbing the wrong packet. So they say 5 is the random number. Okay, so I would look at the 5th card down, and I'll show it to you. So it's the 5 of diamonds. It's odd. So I would subtract 1 from the card value. That would land me on the 4. And then what comes before diamonds in chased order? Well, it's the spades. So I would know that your 5th card down has to be the 4 of spades. And it is. Okay? Why don't we do just one more? Maybe they say 3. So I'll look at my 3rd card here. Okay, there's a 6. I'm seeing a 6. Okay, now it's even. So I add 1. I think it's one of the ones we practiced, right? I would add 1 to get 7, of course, and then what comes after clubs, well, it's hearts. So I would know that your 3rd card down, right? Your 3rd card down would have to be the 7 of hearts, and it is. Okay, so anyway, that's how you do it. Set up the packet in the way that I showed you, and then just remember these simple rules, and you will look like an absolute wizard. Okay, now on to the more technical part of this video. I'm going to explain to people the mathematics here really quickly. What will really help most readers who are into the math, just having the write-up for them to look at and scrutinize, they'll probably be able to figure it out themselves as far as filling in the details. Okay, so what's really happening here? Well, the structure that we're beginning with is something called a two-cycle. And here's a quick review here. A two-cycle in this situation would be some kind of pattern of values. Let's just say 1 through 6 for simplicity. And then that same set of values would repeat. So that's called a two-cycle because there's a pattern that repeats twice. Now, a mirrored structure is where you have a reflection going on. So you have like 1 through 6 and then 6 through 1. And then an AMP, adjacent mirrored pairs, this is where like the 1s are next to each other, the 2s are right next to each other, and so forth. Okay, so they're paired together. Now, the thing to understand is I've just put in kind of generic, simplified symbols for representing these structures. But really, over here, you can think of this like this is a 1, this is a 1, that's a 2, and a 2 in terms of the diagram. Okay, so these are paired together, so we're considering them related in some way. So it's like a 1 and a 1, a 2 and a 2, 3 and a 3, 4 and a 4, 5 and a 5, 6 and a 6. And then if you now take that information and kind of insert it into these structures, we have at the very beginning that I showed you, we have a two-cycle relative to these assignments. Okay, so something like that. Well, when you Klondike shuffle a two-cycle, it becomes a mirrored structure like this. When it's mirrored, you have the stay stack principle, and I can add a link below to a video that talks about the stay stack principle, but there's a lot of ways to mix mirrored structures and not harm them. Okay, and we did this dealing out into 4 piles. And then from there, I just did a Klondike. We land here in this structure type. And then from here, we just dealt out into 2 piles. It's like dealing the first one into one pile, this one into the other, and then 2, 2, 3, 3, like building up your piles, right? So at each level, those cards will be the very pairs that we've assigned. Okay, so at level 1, you might have this pair. Level 2, you might have this pair, and so forth, even though they'll probably be scrambled, right, from this order. But that enables you now to look at any particular card position in your packet, and then if you remember the assignments here, you'll be able to state with certainty what their card must be at that same position in their pile. Okay, so, and then here's a actual full write-up of the steps for the whole routine. You just go through and do this, and then you can perform it as many times as the spectator likes, and you're going to look like an absolute card wizard. Okay, well, thank you for watching, and take a look at other videos on the Absolute Math Magic channel.